Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you guys for joining me again. My name is Wilkie and I'm here with another Kritika Reboot video. Today's topic is going to be imprinting, or more specifically Doomblade Imprints. Now at the start I will give you a piece of general advice, so anybody who's interested in imprinting and how it works, that will apply to you as well, but ultimately this is going to be for Doomblades only, so the more specific information at the end is only going to be applicable for Doomblades. Now, before we start actually doing some tests or showing you the results, imprinting can be accessed from level 65, so if you're low level, don't worry about that early on, just level on. It is accessible through your skill window, so this is your normal skill tree, and then you have the imprinting tab here. Now the game divides those in large, high, mid, and low, and I generally say it's outer circle and inner circle. Outer circle is low, mid, and high. Those only go here. You can't put them in the center. These are sort of auxiliary or utility, I guess, if you will, imprints. They either boost damage or cooldown. That's it. As you can see here, on the left side, there's always a damage increase, and on the right side, there is always a cooldown decrease. So if you opt in for more damage, this is the row you want to be looking for. And if you're opt in for more cooldown reduction, then this is the choice that you want to make. You can use multiple of them. You can mix mid with low and high, so there is no order. There are no rules as to which ones you want to use, which one you have to use. You're free to use whatever you want. Obviously, it makes sense to use it on skills that you either use often or that have good stats to boost them. It wouldn't make much sense to use it on a spell that you only use for an iframe and has a incredibly long cooldown anyway, or incredibly short cooldown where the cooldown reduction would fall flat on its ass. So you have to keep in mind what spells you can boost. Like, you cannot boost all spells here, so you have to actually go through the list and see what spells are there. And as I said, they're all the same. Low, mid, and high always have the same options. Now to the core of the imprinting is the center circle, or the middle circle. You have 3 sets. So if you hover over them, you first of all, you see where they are dropped. So available stage makes it very easy to get them, usually 2 to 3 days of dailies, and you should have gotten one of them. And then you also see what the set effects do. Now generally, we're almost done with the basic part. You have 2 more things to know. First of all, you can salvage. For example, if I don't want these here, I can choose to salvage them in order to get imprint pieces back. These are the value here. And then you can use them to create imprints of your choice. Now, small imprints only cost 19 stones. Mid ones already 38 stones. High imprints, however, cost 380. So they're a little bit more expensive, but ultimately you can run this dungeon daily. And you should run this daily because at the end of the day, you only want high imprints of the spells you use in order to get maximized damage. Anyways, this is, as I said, pretty much for the basic, pardon me, for the basic introduction. You can never create big ones or large ones. It'll always say imprint creation failed. However, they did do a little bit of a change. And now, if you go to your material tab, is it actually material tab? No, it's consumables actually, I think. Yeah. And now every dungeon drops a remnant of a major imprint. And if you're in the clockwork dungeon, or room, if you go to a Rendell, you can either pick one with 15 stones, or are they stones, major imprints, to get a random one. So this will randomize any of the imprints you can have of large one, or you can buy one for 50, which lets you select a specific one. So if you're hunting for a specific one and you haven't had luck yet, then I highly suggest just collect them, and eventually you're going to be getting the imprint you want. Anyways, this is gonna be it for the basic part. On from here on is Doomblade specific part. So, starting with the Doomblade specific part. First set we're gonna be taking a look at is the Dark Moon Light Imprint. Now, I'm not gonna take a look at damage numbers right now because I have a very specific skill build. But we're gonna be taking a look at the large imprint set, which is also commonly referred as to the ranged build. Now I will just show you what that looks like, or what that actually does. We're gonna go to the training room here to show you what these imprints actually do and why they are so popular, I guess. So we're gonna turn off unlimited skills. Actually, no, not yet. So what that actually does is, first of all, break Spirit Sword gets 2 Spirit Swords, and instead of 1 axe, you're actually throwing 3 now. So that's the first change. The second one creates an additional Spirit Sword 100 chop, and you gain super armor. So instead of your little circular slashes, you now have these, I guess, waves on the ground, and you have them arcing out like a, yeah, I guess like a triangle, like a cone in front of you. And you also get super armor. However, the super armor only is there during the slash. Like in between the slashes, you don't actually have the super armor, so you can get slapped out of that. It did happen to me already, so. And last but not least, Purgatory Wave now resets the cooldown of both Spirit Sword and 100 Chop. So for example, what I usually do is I start off the dungeon like this, like that. Throw the no cooldown and no charge. No, it's not a no cooldown, my bad. It's a no charge version of Purgatory Wave after Spirit Wave or 100 Chops. And you can go away again and fire with that. Obviously, at some point you're gonna run out of cooldowns, but really the cooldown of those spells is relatively short. So I highly suggest waiting for both of them to be on cooldown. And as I said, what I usually do is this one here. I start with that, follow with that, blam, and go to the next wave and do that again. Now, this range build, I will show you footage of where I was playing here. Basically, we're just gonna swap to a different video here. You can see a very good application of where this skill build or these imprints actually shine. If you're either completely overpowering the enemy, or you don't really have a safe option to engage with them, then this range build is obviously going to be beneficial to you. I personally like using it. It offers a lot of more AoE for the Doomblade. It offers you to get very good clear, unless you're rolling in a high level dungeon. So generally, this is what I would call my go-to imprint, unless I know I'm going either for a raid or a very difficult dungeon where the DPS of those 2 spells is not going to be enough. So now we're going to be taking a look at the second set, the Death in 6 Realms, which is probably the second most used, or maybe even more people use the second one than the first one. And that's the one that will give you technically infinite right clicks, or they're called blade flash cuts in this version, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So the first side effect is Blade Flash Cut has increased critical damage, and that's a little bit of poorly translation there. Whenever you use Blade Flash Cut, you will get more crit damage, and it doesn't matter. It's not only for Blade Flash Cut, but it's there. The second side effect, or the second piece, generally increases the attack power. That's also a little bit of a poorly translation, because what it actually does is it gives you a buff after you use those spells. Those spells are Drawing Sword Slash, Clarify Sword Dawn, Crossblade Extreme, Ghost Sword Wheel, and Ground Flash. You get a 5% increase, and that can stack 3 times. The good thing about this second buff is it lasts 30 seconds, so it's very, very, very easy to keep it up. It's also very easy to trigger it because you have a lot of those abilities usually in your portfolio anyway. The only exception could potentially be Ghost Sword Wheel. That skill is just shit. It is just shit. It can be used for a quick super armor. DPS on that spell is so it's more of a utility skill, but as you can see, I already built 2 stacks here. And by using the skill, you get 3 stacks. As I said, the other skills are that. Then you have Crossblade, Ground Flash, and Clarify Sword Dawn. That's pretty much about it. And I'm not sure if you caught that, but my combat power actually did go up simply by having these buffs. Pardon me. So this is a general buff not only to Blade Flash Cut, but also increases your overall DPS no matter what skills you use. So it's not only those 5 skills, but those 5 skills trigger the buff, which will then give you up to a 15% increase in attack power on any other ability you use, really. It doesn't matter which one you use. Every now and then, as you can see, we're down to 779k. So that's the first buff, second buff, and third buff. So you get the idea. Now, to the core of this build, I guess you want to call it, the imprint. creates a curse whenever a critical hit occurs. Now this is what allows you, you've probably seen it in videos, you maybe have seen it when I was playing, that you can get pretty much spammeroo or go completely crazy with right clicks. So let's turn unlimited skills back off, so we do have cooldowns, you can see that there are cooldowns. So we're gonna start off with generating curses. Now you will see that I will get 2 buffs now, a bunch of other buffs from the elemental set. Pardon me. I don't know how many that were. Let's see what the damage report says. I had 28 uses. I currently have around about 65% crit rate. So every out of 3 hits, out of 3 hits, 2 hits will crit. So that's definitely probably not the highest rate you can go for, but definitely a decent enough rate to, well, not infinitely spam it, but have a very good rate. Now, if you read that closely, it says it creates a curse whenever you crit. And you can abuse that very easily by just using multi-hit abilities, for example, like Oblivion. Then you have the Soul Vortex, and as you can see, you literally never have to worry. This is also where Ghost Wheel might actually be useful. You don't really ever have to worry about charges too much, because all of these multi-hit abilities will allow you to crit in between as well. So let's see how long we can keep this up. Alright, so we did around about over 100 more Blade Flash cuts. Now, obviously, the damage number is insanely high. The problem with that is Blade Flash Cut has 0 protection on it. You don't have an iframe, you don't have super armor, so you can get whacked in the face completely, no matter what's going to be happening. However, I will show you footage of a dungeon I did. This is really where I think this build shines. Now, with the ranged build, I wouldn't be able to pretty much stagger these bosses completely and keep up a more or less reliable amount of DPS going. However, with this build, I can actually clear a dungeon without too much trouble. That usually is way out of my league. I mean, I have 660k in town. The dungeon is recommended for 2 million CP. And sure, it's a little bit difficult, but it's not out of the world, really. It's fairly feasible for me. But only due to the fact that this build not only allows me to keep up a constant stream of DPS, but also for a good amount of stagger and CC on the enemy. Otherwise, I would not be able to keep that up. So really, if you, as I showed in the early example, if you're able to out DPS anything and you just kill everything straight up, go for the ranged build. If you're planning to do dungeons like this, or you're actually having trouble in certain locations like this, then the second build might actually be more useful to you. On to the last imprint set of Doomblades, we have the Wave Soul Sword Power. This one is probably, in terms of raw damage on paper, this might actually be the best out of the 3. However, I find it a little bit difficult to keep the damage actually going. Also, you're kinda limiting yourself to not use your right click as often, because using right click will kinda cut yourself some damage from the set effect. So it's a little bit of a contradiction. If you never use right click as a Doomblade, then this set might actually be really good for you. I really like the ability, and I think it's a very good gap closer. I think it's good mobility. It can be used to chain combos. It can be used as a filler for DPS. Overall, I think it's just a very good ability. So at least I wouldn't recommend this build. If you play Doomblade without using right click or Blade Flash Cut, then you very well might actually try using that. Anyways, the first one, what that does is per slash of 100 wave chop, you get 1 curse stack. So if I use 3, I will get 3 curse stacks. And if I use the whole barrage, I will get 5. So that is pretty straightforward. Now, for the second one, that's a little bit, I guess, more complex. And your stored curse stacks now increase the damage of Drawing Sword Slash, Clarify Sword Dawn, and Crossblade Extreme. So you only have 3 abilities. And they also get the damage increase per stack the same as Ground Flash. Now, Ground Flash actually is True Flash Strike. For some reason, they mistranslated that one. I'm not sure why. So as you can see, it says here increased damage per curse stack 10%. So at 5 curse stacks, you will get a 50% damage increase. And we can very easily verify this. Let's just use all of my curse stacks here, so we're at 0. And let's see, until all the dots and everything's away, we have what? 170 mil crits, 190 mil crits. So it doesn't seem like I will be breaking past 200 million. But you get the rough idea of terms of damage. So if we, for example, get the full stack now, we should roughly be at 260 now, maybe. 280 actually. No, 278, 279, 295. Pardon me. And I can tell you where the additional damage actually comes from, and that is the third effect. And that one gives you an increased critical damage by 5%. You also get darkness damage or darkness element and darkness resistance. You can also verify these here. So right now my crit damage is 418. We have dark resistance 330, which is exactly 100% since we have 5 stacks. And my dark got up to 384. So if you use 1, you will see that my... Let's start from the top. My crit damage went down. My dark resistance went down, and so did my dark enchant. And if we use all of them, we are pretty much back to the base crit damage we have, which is 363. Dark enchantment back to what it was, and 0 dark resistance. Now, the problem, as I said initially with these imprints, is while you can generate curses through 100 chop, and that skill has a very low cooldown, whenever you use this spell, you will cut down your damage. And now you don't get any benefit whatsoever from the third side effect. Given that the damage increase only is for, I want to call it 2 useful spells, like Drawing Sword Slash is good. No doubt about that. Decent cooldown, very good damage. Clarify Sword Dawn. Personally, that damage, or like the spell, has incredibly high damage. The problem with this ability is Kritika plays so quickly, and the new dungeons usually don't give you that many options in order to use that spell effectively. The problem with Clarify Sword Dawn is you have to charge until you see the flash. So if you charge it fully, I will actually show you what that looks like. So let's... Okay, all the buffs are gone. So if we charge at max, we have, what? 41 million crit. Now let's wait until all the buffs are gone. There we go. And if we wait for the flash, let's see. Wait for crit. There we go, 60 million. So as you can see, if you wait for the right timing, the spell of this, the damage of this spell actually increases quite a bit. It's also noted on the spell itself. Powerful slash down attack is 10,000 as to opposed 6,800. So timing is very crucial for this ability. The only good thing is it pulls enemies in and it has super armor, but in a game where everything kills you, you don't want to rely on super armor all that much. And last but not least, this spell, Crossblade Extreme, is buffed by it. On the contrary side, this spell has a 30-second cooldown, so it's not actually available all that much, and you're much more likely to start using your right clicks. So what your goal would be is to time usage of Drawing Sword Slash, Crossblade Extreme, and Clarify Sword Dawn if you use it, in order to maximize the DPS, to only use them whenever you get full stacks. So whenever you want to use one of those abilities, make sure you get full stacks, for example, for this, or through using Curse Drinker. It's actually called Phantom Blade Enlightenment here. And then you get the maximum DPS. I don't think that is very useful. It's a little bit of a hassle. Generally, looking at the second set, pardon me, if you were to look at the second set, you can pretty much infinitely keep up the 15% damage buff on any ability whatsoever, also right clicks, plus the pretty much almost free critical damage of 3% per stack. so up to 9% critical damage in a much easier fashion. Sure, 15% compared to 50% is not the same, but this one only applies to 3 abilities. This one applies to all abilities for a much longer period of time. You don't have to worry about using any of your curse stacks. You can just fire away. It's just generally much more usable and feasible, in my opinion, than the third set will be. So I cannot really recommend the third set, even though it might have better damage on paper. Maybe in the future, if we get some kind of dark dungeon where there's a lot of darkness damage, then this might be useful. Otherwise, the darkness resistance is completely down the drain because you're never going to be using it. Like, what for? Really? So, if I were to choose, pick one off the top, either the range build for more convenient clear, or the center one for better AoE, or not better AoE, but better stagger, better CC, and better consistent damage output. Anyways, this is all for the imprinting. Sorry that this video is a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. The imprinting test took a little bit of time for me, but this is the results I come up with. If you have anything else, if there is anything unclear, if I forgot anything as usual, feel free to put it down in the comments below, and I'll happily talk about it. As usual, I want to spark a communication, a discussion with you guys, so feel free to let me know whatever you guys think, and I will catch you guys next time.